So International Women's Day is coming up, and as we know, it's a great day to celebrate the achievements of women worldwide. And as we draw nearer to the day and we're on the subject of women, it seems the perfect timing for us to join together and talk women and money. And specifically, we're going to be talking about financial freedom and financial independence. Now, I'm joined by some wonderful women, all who have a plethora of knowledge when it comes to money, and in fact have dedicated YouTube channels focused on educating people about personal finance. And whilst it may not be specifically geared to women, the same principles apply. So it's important for us to have a good understanding of our personal finances and some financial goals, having a plan and having some financial security. So before we get started on this exciting conversation, why don't we just go around and quickly introduce ourselves and talk about why financial independence is important to you.
I'll kick it off then. Hi everyone, my name is Tolly Frimpong and I am a money coach and a money content creator online. I think financial independence is very important because I have a very young family and I want to be able to give them the life that I never had growing up. And financial independence will allow me not only to give them the monetary lifestyle, but also have that time freedom, because time is so important to me. I think that's the most valuable currency that we have. And I want to be able to spend that quality time with my kids, especially now that they're young. So yeah, financial independence means so much to me.
Hi guys, I'm Deandra and I go by the name of Finance D on YouTube and on Instagram. I'm really passionate about this topic, and I would say that financial independence is so important to me because I really am pushing towards a goal of developing a life around my passions and my joys and my desires. And I want to be able to live that kind of life without the restrictions of finances. And so this concept of financial independence is just to be free of that financial worry or financial burden and be able to live my best life, basically.
Hi everyone, my name is Veronia Spain. So I'm very similar. I am a content creator on YouTube. And for me, financial independence is really about having the option to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So very similar to Deandra and Tolu, just in terms of having the time to actually do other things and being able to just spend time with family and just having the opportunity to actually do something that I'm very passionate about as well, even if it maybe doesn't have a lot of money, but the fact that I can still do it without having to worry about paying for bills or anything like that is just really important to me.
Great. So as you can see, we're all on different walks of life and we have, I'm pretty sure, different stories coming to how we got into personal finance, but we'll cover that in another video because that's going to be really, really interesting to find out a bit more about. But whilst I was looking around about around money and women, I came across this interesting stat. So it says that on average, in the UK, a person has a debt of about £27,000, and 55% are likely to be women, and 58% are likely to have children. And we know that last year threw a massive curveball at us, and if your finances were not in place, then you could end up in like a really dire place. So I think for a lot of people, that concept of financial independence might seem so far-fetched that I just wonder if we can just sit down and talk about how you would get to financial independence before we get into the methods of how you would do that. Why do you think it's so important that women should think about financial independence and financial freedom?
Yeah, I can go for it. Yeah, I think you're so right when you say it can seem really out of touch. And that's something that I'm kind of conscious of with the whole FIRE movement, that, you know, a lot of times people think it's for someone who's rich and got a lot of disposable income, and that sometimes creates a disconnect. But you're right, it's something that needs to be accessible for everybody. And I think one of the, you know, instead of thinking about the end goal of reaching this magic FIRE number when you can finally be financially independent, I think it's actually along the journey that you start to change and your outlook starts to change. Sorry, excuse me. So for me, I'm really realizing that way before, I mean, I'm not going to reach my FIRE number for another 10 years or so, but it's way before that. It's currently right now that things are starting to change for me. It started with getting rid of debt, and it started with fixing my relationship with money and realizing that I didn't need to spend every single penny that I earned. Because for a long time, I don't know about you guys, but for a long time, what came in is what went out. And none of,
Yeah.
minimal savings, no investments, it came in and it went out. So I think it starts way before that. It's those habits that you build up along the way that start to transform you. And then opportunities seem to come up on the journey, things that you didn't even think of at first, but your brain starts to expand when you don't have, debts holding you down, or you're not living paycheck to paycheck. Bit by bit, things start to open up along the way, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would say it's really a mindset thing that's really sort of the core behind the FIRE movement. And yes, it's about actually investing and spending less than you earn, but actually the habits that you do start to gain whilst you're shifting your mindset into thinking, actually, how do I save money, and what are the ways that I can start to live my life so that I can be able to save money and not have to spend everything that I have. I think that's really where it's quite important to me. And I've just sort of realized that there are times where before I was very similar, where I just had, a large amount of debt and I was just spending money on clothes and on food. And you just didn't really realize that you were spending all this money and you just came to zero at the end. And you basically say, oh, I'm going to save money at the end after I've paid off all of my expenses. You don't save anything at the end. So for me, it's just really thinking about, actually, I want to take control of my finances, and to get to financial independence is part of that journey of actually taking control of my finances.
Yeah, I think that's the statistic that you shared earlier. It just shows the importance of why it's important to pursue financial independence. Like when you spoke about how many women had debt, it was like 56% had over 20 something thousand pounds worth of debt. And I was definitely in that category. I had about 36,000 pounds worth of debt. So my debt was extremely high. And because I have a very young family and I don't want them to repeat the same patterns of behavior that I did, for me, it's so important to have that financial literacy and that strong financial foundation, and teach them the principles that they're going to need so that they don't make the same mistakes that I made with money, and that they handle money with a lot more care as they grow into adulthood. Because I think a lot of things are learnt by observation than by what you say. So I thought it was very important for me to show them actually the right way, as opposed to me just saying to them, oh yeah, you need to save money, you need to save money. But meanwhile, they see mummy say she's going shopping to buy bread, and then I'm coming back with bags and bags of shopping, and then I thought you just went to go and buy bread. And it's those little things that I picked up actually from my parents growing up. And it's not that my mum would say the same thing to me, that Tolly, you need to save money, you need to save money. But then at the same time, she was the one that was buying out the shop every single time she went. So it's like, okay, no, I need to actually make changes and understand that financial independence is not going to happen without being intentional. And it's like, yeah, need to be intentional so that I can teach them better and so that I can just live a more fulfilling life. Because who wants to just be going from paycheck to paycheck for the rest of their life? It's like you're on a hamster wheel on this continuous cycle that's never ending. And unless you do something to break that cycle, it's just going to keep going on and on and on and repeating itself. And that's how I spent the last 10, 15 years of my working life. And I was like, no, it's enough. Enough is enough. Now I'm going to find another way, because what I've been doing clearly up until to this point hasn't been working. So, okay, what can I do to change it? And I think it's so important for women to kind of take control of our finances and not just be slaves to the system that's always telling us to spend.
No, I really like that, because I have to say that even the idea of financial independence came a lot later in life for me. Just because as with everything, you go to school, you just learn, you need to be at the top of your game, you need to make X amount of money, and that's it. That's all I thought about. I just need to get to 1 million, and yeah, when we get to 1 million, I'll think about it. But it's only when I had my son that I thought, you know what, is this really the life that I want? And that's when the idea of financial independence came into being, because it was just like, actually, I should be in a position where I have money coming in and living the life that I want, not necessarily having to climb a certain, take a certain career path or take a certain way of life to get what I need. But actually, could I have my time the way I want to have my time and not worry about money? And when I talk to a lot of my friends, that's not even something that they've considered. Yeah. This is just a natural path that life has to go for, and you don't see anything deviating from that. And I don't know if it's because that's just the way we've been brought up, or it's the way society gears women to think. Because if I think about my great grandmother, she was brought up like, you just have babies and you look after your family. Finances wasn't even a thing. Whereas for me now, I'm like, when I was brought up, it was like, you need to get your own money. You need to be paying for your own car. My mother always told me, don't ever let anybody, you shouldn't rely on anybody. You should always have your own money. But even then, financial independence wasn't a thing. So I think it's really, really important that women understand, yes, you do need to have money, but financial independence should be something that you look towards, and it should be something that you focus on. I don't know if you agree with that.
Oh yeah, no, totally agree, because there's a difference between, and that's the misconception that a lot of us have as well. So we just think, okay, if I get that job that's paying me an extra £5 or an extra £10,000, then I'll be all right. But the reality is, if you don't get in control of that money, your lifestyle is just going to creep to meet that money that you have coming in. So it's a vicious cycle. So you think, okay, what I need is a pay rise. Once I get that pay rise, then I'll be okay. Then you get that pay rise, and then you find within a couple of months, you're spending all that money again. And you're like, okay, I need another pay rise. And it just keeps on going until you get in control of that money.
Yeah, and I think it's important to realize that being financially independent per se doesn't mean you need to quote unquote retire at that time, because I think people perceive that if I'm sort of on this kind of movement and they say, well, what do you mean you don't want to work for the rest of your life? What are you
going to do for that time?
Yeah. What are you going to be doing at home? You're like, people die early when they retire. Early. Like, I've heard those things. But again, it's about having the option and not having to stress about paying your bills and just going to work just to pay your bills, because actually the majority of people don't like their jobs currently. They just go to work just to pay their bills. Whereas if you are financially independent, you have the option. And if there's something that you want to do specifically in some type of work or industry that maybe doesn't pay as much, you don't have to worry about paying the bills because you're financially independent. So you're really going to get a lot more satisfaction and happiness and joy because you're basically living the life that you wanted, living your life, to be honest.
And I think it's so important as well when it comes to women, as you were saying before, like the rhetoric that maybe your great grandmother heard versus what you are hearing today is quite different. And I think, I can't remember when I heard this on BBC News, but obviously because of this COVID situation, there are a lot of abusive situations that are happening in people's homes. And a lot of women have to stay sometimes because they don't even have financial freedom, not in terms of what we're talking about in terms of reaching financial independence, but they have no control of the finances in their situation. So they can't even leave an abusive situation because they don't have the finances. And I know this is really separate, but it just goes to show the importance of us women coming together and, talking about finances and taking ownership and, making sure we're good. Because
100%.
When I heard that, I honestly, it brought me to tears, because I thought, if someone's trapped in an abusive situation just because of money, what are we doing to change that? And you're right, Yvonne, like the rhetoric needs to be, those conversations need to be had where women do make sure that they're good and secured and have what they need to have, and aren't just necessarily reliant on the man. I know this can vary depending on, having kids. It's not always in your control, but, just generally, we need to be in the
financial security is definitely important, because touching on from what you just said, actually, Dee, there was a YouTube video actually I watched the other day of a lady sharing her story. Her husband literally passed suddenly, and she was a stay-at-home mum, and they didn't have life insurance, they didn't have anything. So literally she went from, thinking everything was okay, she had all the security she needed because the husband was providing and paying all the bills, to that source of income gone completely. And she hadn't worked in like 14 years. And watching that video was just so heartbreaking. And she was basically now spreading that awareness to other women, to say, not to say that you shouldn't be a stay-at-home mum or that you shouldn't rely on your husband to provide for the home, but also you need to have something for yourself. If nothing else, at least have insurance in place, so that should the worst happen to that primary breadwinner, you have something to fall back on. Yeah, because she wasn't thinking about her finances at all. Whereas now, on top of obviously dealing with the grief of that loss, she's having to also now think of, how am I going to keep a roof over the head of myself and of my family? So yeah, no, it's really important.
Especially if you have assets as well, and if you're not aware, that maybe your partner is the one that did all the investments, and you don't know what you know, what's been happening, it's going to be difficult to then figure out actually how many assets do you have, what's your net worth if something ever happens. So yeah, I definitely agree, it's really important.
Yeah, so I think it's really, really important. And I think given that we are all at like different stages of life and have different backgrounds. So for example, like I'm a single mom and everything is on me. If I don't pay a bill, it's on me. You know what I mean? So it's really, really important for me personally to have a rein on my finances. And we've kind of touched on like different situations that people might be on. But the reality is that people don't always think about the practical things, or they think that it's completely really difficult. Like my situation, I can never get to that point. So I thought it'd be really quite good to talk about, because we talk about this a lot on our channels, that some of the practical steps that people can actually get to understanding their finances and taking control of their finances. And I know we could sit down and we could go through each and every single one of them and be here for hours on end. Literally. But I wonder if you were to give like 3 key tips as to what you think are the most important things to look at when it comes to your finances, what would it be?
I'd say the first thing is mindset is key, because I think once you change your mind, you can literally change your life. And I think a lot of times, depending on your situation, for example, if you're in a lot of debt like I was in, it wasn't onto the point that I was like, no, I've had enough of this situation, I need to change it, and I can change it. And when I saw the potential and the possibility that I could become debt free, that was the moment that I was able to now start taking active steps to change it. But I think when we bury our heads in the sand and we just think that, you know, there's no way I can do this, this is too big a task, it's impossible, all of those things that we keep telling to ourselves, it's going to keep us in that same cycle kind of thing. But once we start reprogramming our mind and start saying, okay, how can I change this? What can I do to change this? That's when all of a sudden you start seeing other options and start seeing ways out of that situation. But if you've closed your mind and closed your eyes to any possibility of transforming your finances, then yeah, it's going to be very hard to change it. So I think mindset definitely is key. I think obviously visiting our childhood beliefs as well. So things that we've seen from a young age of our parents, how they handled money. So like I touched on earlier with me seeing my mum always shopping, but telling me to save, but I picked up from her that when you go to the shop, you don't just buy what's on your list, you just buy what you feel impulsively to buy. So things like that, like thinking back to, or being more conscious and thinking about those buying behaviors, what your triggers are, what makes you spend, what makes you not spend, at what points are you like more likely to spend more, all those kind of things. I think addressing that is definitely one of the key steps. I'll let us go around, because I'm thinking if I say them all, I might take the ones that you guys want to say as well. So
yeah, I was going to definitely agree with the mindset thing. The other thing was really actually having financial goals as well, because that really helped personally for me when I was trying to pay off my debt, because I had a set goal and I knew, okay, this is when I want to have paid off my debt. I then had motivation. And whenever anything came up where I thought, oh, should I actually be spending money on this? And I kept going back to my goals. I then concentrated and just thought, you know what, I want to hit my goal at this point in the year. So I have to make certain sacrifices. And, you know, if it means not going out with, you know, some of your friends, or not doing some of the stuff that you want to do for a short amount of time to just make that sacrifice, then you're kind of willing to do it. And then the other thing that I would also say is create a budget. I'm very passionate. I think, and I know Todd is very passionate about
get a budget, guys.
Yeah, do like a budget will really set that foundation, because then you'll understand exactly what's coming in and what's going out.
And just to add on to the goals point that you just made, Verenia, sorry, and with that goal, break it down into smaller bite-sized goals. It makes it more achievable. Because if the goal, for example, is to pay off £12,000 worth of debt, seeing that as the goal, that might put you off doing it. But if you say, okay, the goal is to pay off £1,000 in the next month, £1,000 in the next month, and then just kind of, break it down into stages, because then it seems more achievable. And then maybe even reward yourself a little bit when you hit certain milestones. I mean, don't go wild or anything, but reward yourself. So it's like, okay, maybe treat yourself to a coffee or something from Costa or something like that.
Yeah, I would say it kind of goes into what you guys were saying, but I would say know your numbers is a big one that I think is really important. And I think for me, I know that I was at a stage where I didn't want to know my numbers. And I know a lot of people are like that. I didn't actually want to know the physical amount of debt that I was in. That is a scary moment when if you're in, you know, you've got a fair amount of debt built up on different cards or whatever. When you write that all down and you see everything, that is a scary, terrifying moment. But it also is weirdly liberating in that you know exactly what it is and exactly what you need to work towards. So I would say know your numbers. Excuse me. If you've got debt, create a judgment-free zone for yourself. Sit down, have a nice cup of tea or coffee while you do it. Try and, make it a situation where it's not too tense, and just write down all the numbers, get real with yourself, and then you can start tackling it from there. And another thing I would say is little and often. So I used to get made fun of. In fact, I still do to this day, because I eat very little, but I eat very often. So I have small plates, but I need to eat every hour or two because I have such small sizes, which is actually a good way to eat. It's a good way for your metabolism to keep going. But I've now applied this to my financial life. At first when I started saving, I could save maybe £50 a month. And that seemed like a small amount, but it was £50 every single month. And then it increased to £100, and then it increased to £150,
compounding, yeah.
And so on and so forth. So you start little, but if you keep consistently doing that, it's just shocking how, this snowball just forms and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it rolls down the hill. So yeah, I think that's another thing. Don't despise small beginnings. If you can only save £20 a month, save £20 a month. If you can only pay off £20 of debt a month, pay off that £20. You're still progressing. So yeah, I think little and often is it's working for my life.
No, that's definitely good. I think also as well, you could it's good to know your why as well, like why you want to achieve what you want to achieve. So having a clear and a strong why will help you on those times when you don't want to do it anymore. So with all four of us, we have very strong whys, which is why we're on this journey and we've stayed consistent with it over such a long period of time, because it's like, okay, no, I know exactly why I want to do this, why I want financial independence. This isn't just something that I thought of yesterday and it's just like, oh yeah, let me give that a go. It's like, no, I know my way. I know, like, come hell or high water, I need to reach this goal because of X, Y, Z reasons. So I think really understanding that reason and having a strong enough and compelling enough reason, it will really help you in those times when you want to give up and when you just think, yeah, this thing is not working out.
Yeah, no, I really like that. So I've just been thinking about what all of you have said, and I think about, like, mindset is such a big thing, because I think if you can't shift your mind, then you won't be able to practically do most of those things. So maybe it's just me,
100%.
because I think about, like, when I found out I was going to be a single mom and I had to do everything by myself, I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't. I don't know why I do that in an American accent, by the way.
I can't do it. I just can't.
But genuinely, I thought that, I actually cannot do it. And I thought that, being realistic, I'm a Black single mom. So the stats are already against me, and I have a Black boy. So I was like, wait, what does this mean? And when you read, like, some of the comments about, children from single homes or single parent families, and how they're such a strain to society. And I thought to myself, I could really, like, get into this, and it could genuinely impact my financial health as well as my physical and mental health, obviously. But changing your mindset had a massive, I think that's probably one of the biggest things, because if I decided that, I was going to feed into that, then I would be in a much different position than I am in now. But the fact that I was like, you know what, maybe it's just my resilient nature, but I was like, no, it's not going to be me. I refuse to be that statistic. Me and my family ain't going to do that. And I came across, like, a variety of, like, single moms who are, like, making millions. And I thought, you know what, if they can do it, it doesn't matter where I'm starting from, I can do it too. And I think it's the same thing for a lot of women, regardless of what situation they are in, that actually your mindset is a massive thing that can make such a huge difference. Because once you've convinced yourself, I think it's really hard to unconvince yourself or to have somebody else tell you otherwise, especially if you're resilient. So I think that's really, really important. And also we talked a little bit around budgeting, and I kind of want to talk a little bit more about that, because there's so much power in a budget. And I've come across people who are like, budgets are old school, budgets don't mean anything, like, why would I even bother with that? And I'm just here always shouting, like, no, you need a budget, it will help you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about more of your experience and why you guys are such pro budgeteers and why you think it's such an important tool.
Oh, the first time I did a budget, I was so shocked, because I didn't realize how much I actually spent. And I think that is when my mindset started to change, because I usually spend how much? And I think it's quite difficult the first time, because you're trying to figure out, okay, you're trying to look at your bank statements, you're trying to figure out, okay, how much do I usually spend? And I use something called the zero-based budget method. So you're actually giving every penny a name, and you're also planning ahead. So you're telling your money what to do before you start tracking your expenses. So when I tried to first do it, it was quite difficult, because I thought that maybe I spent this much, but actually as you go through the next few months, you realize that some things probably change, and you end up spending more money in another area compared to somewhere else. So I think for me, it just helped me to realize how much I could actually save if I prioritize certain things. And I wouldn't have known that until I listed all of my expenses, because before I've never saved money before. I think, the one time I tried to save money is at uni maybe, and that did not work out very well. So the fact that I knew all of my expenses, and then I said, oh, realistically, I could actually save that much. It was just such a game changer for me. So I've always been a massive fan.
No, 100%. Oh, go on, Dee.
No, same. I've been budgeting for years, and I mean, I don't think, well, I was budgeting for a while. I stopped during my master's program, and that's where things went bad. So it goes to show, really, that's when I acquired all my debt, was during my master's program. And I just wasn't budgeting at the time. I was like, I don't need it anymore. Like, it's not important. And it just ended up ugly for me. But with budgeting, as you said, Veronia, it's you telling your money where to go and what to do. And that's just the way that I see it. I mean, I live by a budget, and like, my husband was not into budgeting before we got married, but he's also not a spender. So his money would just sit there in his account, and I would just say, okay, that's fine. Yeah. But, I had to sit us down together and be like, look, we're going to have a budget. And he even sees the benefit now, because his money was just sitting there doing nothing. Whereas now it's allocated to specific areas, and we've got investments, and we've got savings, and it just feels like you're telling your money what to do, and I'm not letting our money control us. And that's exactly it. It can't control us, because as soon as we get paid, we know exactly where everything's going. And I think, Veronia, I think you've said it before, either in your live or a video of yours, where you said you like to do the money transfers yourself. So with a budget, you can automate things. And for a lot of people, that works best, automation. So you don't have to think about it. You have a budget, and every month, specific money goes to specific areas. But I'm like you, Veronia, I like to do it myself, because I just enjoy physically seeing it go into specific savings or investments. But yeah, I feel like you can find things to work according to you. If you don't have the time to sit and budget, you don't sit and budget frequently and do the transfers and everything. You can budget once every 3 months and budget for 3 months ahead. If that works for you, make it work for you. So I think, oh, and another thing, people don't like the word budget, but they do like other words like conscious spending plan.
Whatever works, isn't it? Whatever you can call it, that's going to make you do it. I'll take that. Yeah, no, because my strap line is live your best life on a budget. And that's because I really think that's the best way to live your life, is on a budget. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions around budgeting. When you hear budgeting, it's like a swear word. People are just like, oh, budget. These people don't have a fun life, and these people don't do anything. But it's like, no, actually, budget isn't restriction. It's actually liberation. It's freedom. Like, there's freedom in your budget. When you have a plan for that money, you can spend that money without feeling any guilt or feeling any like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that. Because no, you're spending money that's been allocated to that purpose. And I think having a budget and a plan for your money, no matter where you are in your financial journey, is really just going to help you take those steps towards a better financial future. So whether you want to pay off debt, having a budget is going to help you with that. Whether you want to save, whether you want to invest, whether you want to get a deposit for your house, whatever your financial goal is, you need a plan, because how are you going to know where you're going if you don't know how you're going to get there? There's no plan for it. So yeah, definitely. I can't stress enough, everyone should have some kind of budget. the method you use can be different. Like we mentioned before, there's the zero-based budgeting method. That's what I like using. Quite a few of us like using that. But then there's also the 80-20, 80-50, whatever it is, the percentage-based budget. 50-30-20, that's the one, the balanced money formula. That budget works for some people. Some people have the no budget, which is still a budgeting method. There's so many different methods, but the idea is that you find something that works for you. You need to have some kind of plan for your money, because otherwise that money is just going to go. You're just going to not end up progressing the way you could have and waste a lot of time. So yeah, team budget here. Literally. Team budget.
You know what? You said two things that resonated so much with me. The first one was around you telling your money what to do and not the other way around, because for so many years, my money told me what I could do. If somebody invited me, you'd be like, I think I might be able to make it. I think I've got this much amount available. And then the second one was around actually having a budget and making sure that actually you can allocate everything that you need. Now, I'm an automator. I can't. Dee and Veronia, I respect you so much for being able to go in every month. Check
Forward to it. I find it so fun.
I know, I'm too tempted, because I'll be like, ooh, an extra 300. Do I really want to be moving that? So if I don't, out of sight,
take that power out of your hands. Yeah.
I'm an automator completely. Just because I think it'll make life a lot easier for me. I'm one of those people who, for a very long time, and even up to now, still kind of have a little bit of it. I'll just go at the end of the month and say, this is what's left. This is what I can have fun with. And if it's not automated, I'm less likely to shift it over. But the other thing for me was, the big lesson for me was just going through my bank statements and realizing how many subscriptions I'd signed up to and forgotten to cancel. Which, if for anything you want to save money really quickly, that's like one way. That's one reason why you might need a budget. Shoes, signing up for shoes that you could get every month, but you're not even getting the shoes, but I'm paying for a service that I'm not even benefiting from. So I think it's really, really important to have a budget. Now, personally, I like the 50-30 rule, because I just think 50 expenses, 30 flexible expenses, you can spend whatever you want, 20%. Although I've personally shifted it around, so I'm trying to say 30%, and then 20% goes towards like my flexible expenses, as well as having just a little bit of fun money in there, because I think we're all working hard. You need to have a bit of fun.
You need to enjoy it.
You can have some money for it. And I think a lot of people get that wrong in thinking that a budget means, you're being deprived.
It's not deprivation. It's not deprivation, it's liberation.
But you can budget for fun money.
Fun money is the most important, one of the most important categories in there. You said it, you work hard, you need to play hard. I agree. People do think, when you say budget, they don't think you're budgeting for fun money. That's always an important part of my budget for me. I need to have fun, and what's the point otherwise? What am I working so hard to do? If it's all about the end goal and I'm not having fun along the way,
doesn't make sense.
What's the point?
No, 100%.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the practical things, and I think we've gotten quite a lot of gems in there about some of the things that we can actually do as women to get not only financial freedom, but also start our journey to financial independence. But I'm really interested in finding out, what are the steps that you are each individually taking to get to financial independence for yourselves?
Who wants to go first? I can go first. So the steps that I'm taking, there's quite a few, I would say. I am working still to this day on increasing my financial literacy. I believe in, ongoing learning, and I'm keen to learn more and keep learning. And I think this is so important on your financial journey. It's the compounding effect of knowledge. You find out one thing and then you find out another, and it all kind of pieces together. So that's, I would say, foundational to my journey. As I said earlier, cancelling all kinds of debt. Mortgage for me is not something that I'm looking to pay off early. I know Tolly will speak to that probably in a minute. And people are on both sides of the fence. Some people believe in paying it off early. Some people don't. I'm on the I'm not planning to side of the fence. But that's because I'd rather use that extra money and invest it. It's just a personal choice. I think it doesn't matter either way. And because I do subscribe to the FIRE movement, I am working on increasing my savings rate. So we have a goal savings rate of about 35 to 40%. We're currently at about 20%. So we need to increase that over time to get to a 35% savings rate. So that just basically means out of our income each month, we would save 35% or 40% of our income. Now, I know that's a big goal, and that's why it's a bit of a process to get there. But this is just our goal to reach financial independence within the next 10 years or so. So I would say those are some of the steps that we're taking. Yeah, I would say that's it.
Yes, I'll go next then. So financial goals that I have, or our FIRE goals at the moment, is, so as Dee mentioned, we want to pay off our mortgage early. So I have a goal of trying to be mortgage free within the next 7 years. A very ambitious goal, but even if I could reach it within the next 10 years, to be honest, I'll be very, very happy with that. So that's one of our big FIRE goals. And then in addition to that, it's really just trying to increase my income stream so that I can increase my rate of savings, because at the moment it's just my husband that works and I'm at home with the kids, but I'm really working on all my side hustles to build that up so that we can have all my income that I'm making can really go towards the mortgage overpayments and then also towards investing as well. So we started our investing journey in December last year. So we're newbie investors. Yay. Finally took the plunge after months and months and months, or even years, should I say, of researching the stock market and stuff. I was like, you know what, let me just jump in, get my feet a little bit wet. And yeah, as Dee mentioned before, that's what I'm doing in terms of learning. So I've been consuming all you guys' videos about investing, been watching so many videos about investing, been reading a few books as well. So really just trying to absorb as much knowledge as I can to help me on my investing journey so that I can, reach that FIRE goal within the next 10 years. So that is the goal. And like Veronia mentioned earlier, it's not a case of in 10 years time I'm just going to go lay on a beach somewhere. That's not really my end goal. The goal is just that I have time freedom. That's really, really what I want to achieve, time freedom. I want to have the ability to command my day. I want to wake up tomorrow and be like, okay, today I want to do X, Y, Z without thinking I need to go and get a paycheck to keep these lights on. So yeah, that's literally in my FIRE goals.
Yeah, so mine's a little bit similar, but a little bit different just based on the time that I am at. So I am in the process of getting married, hopefully this year, but I sort of started on this kind of journey before. So at the moment, I'm sort of living with my parents' house. So it means that I have the opportunity to save a lot more. So I save about 70% of my income. A lot of people call me frugal for that reason.
Very impressive.
But yeah, before I moved into my parents, I became a lodger so that I could pay off my debt, and I was paying £300 a month rent. So I'm like, I've kind of had to sort of be on that. I've sort of been on that journey now for a couple of years where I've had to make some sacrifices. But I think the ultimate goal is to sort of now that I'm sort of investing in the stock market, I also want to invest in property. So that's a main aim for me. I've got a lot of passion when it comes to property, but then also now starting to increase my income so that I can invest even more as well. So that's really going to be my focus over the next couple of years. And I'm hoping to be sort of financially independent in the next 10 years. And that's kind of my main goal.
I just need to say 70% of your income
Right?
Hashtag goals.
Impressive. Oh my God. I thought 35% was a stretch. You're on 70%. Oy, that's amazing.
Yeah, although I don't pay rent at the moment, so I will start to pay rent this year because so it will probably shift. We are aiming for about 50% though, because we're both quite frugal at the moment. Yeah, so hopefully it should still be at that point. But again, if I increase my income at the same time as well, we're hoping we can still kind of keep close to that savings rate.
Amazing.
That is absolutely impressive. And there's nothing wrong with being frugal. I've learned so much from the frugal living movement, like repurposing things. Right? Like I was like Miss Consumerism. Now I'm like, maybe I can be a minimalist, you know? I covered that and my wardrobe.
Yeah. One thing for me, eat at home. That's my mantra, eat at home. Everything, eat at home. Come to restaurant, I'm eating at home first, and then I'll go and get a side at the restaurant. I don't care.
No.
See, seriously. I'm really struggling with that because thinking about, the world opening up again, I'm a massive foodie. I'm like, Anybody calls it, I'm there. Let's go. Let's go.
I'm with
Let's
you,
go.
Yvonne. I'm with you.
So,
I
Especially
do like
because we've
staying
been
at
locked up
home,
for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be
yeah,
hard.
and
It's gonna be hard.
I think for me, you know, the steps that I'm currently taking is, like Tolly said, I also want like time richness. I want to be able to have my time to dictate what I do, but still have an income coming in. So for me, figuring that out is basically around, you know, what career or what business do I need to have in place to give me the income to do that. And I have tried out a whole heap of things and still trying to figure it out. And I think by the time I get to, you know, 10, 15 years, I'm hoping that I can be able to just maybe one day decide to go to Bali for like 3 months and just work remotely from a beach somewhere, because I can, you know, that is the dream. As well as being in a position where, you know, I can, my son gets to like 18 or so and just be like, don't worry about a house, I got you. Here's your money.
Come on.
So for me, these are like things that I hadn't thought about before, but now I'm like, you know what, these are possibilities and they're opportunities that are definitely open to me, regardless of whether I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, I'm a single mother. These are things that are completely available to me. So I really want to encourage other women to think about to take control of their finances, think about what they can do, what they want in life, and how your finances can give you the opportunity to do that. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Thank you guys so much for sharing your tips and tricks and hacks. And I guess we've gotten so much out of this. There's so much information out there. What I will say is please make sure to check everybody's YouTube channels out, where they share out so much information. Like I said, this is an ongoing conversation, all geared up to celebrating women and celebrating International Women's Day. I really want to encourage you this year to really take a step forward with your finances and not think that financial independence or financial freedom is something that you cannot achieve, but it's something that can be done. So I want to make sure to thank our panelists yet again for their contributions and for sharing their time with us. I will make sure to link all their channels down below. Please make sure to go ahead, check out their channels, learn what you can, hit that like button. Also make sure to subscribe to all their channels, because they do genuinely share really amazing tips and tricks that have helped me. I absolutely binge on all their on all their channels and I absolutely love it. So please make sure to hit that like button, and of course don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss another upload. Like I always say, please make sure to also share this video with somebody who wants to make a positive impact on their finances, and I will see you in the next video. Do take care. Bye.